Hello amigos, it's your girl Amy and I'm back with another video. This time I'm gonna talk about my childhood dream job. When I was a kid, say 7 years old or so, I had a dream. A dream like no other. I wanted to fly super advanced killing machines in the military. I know, right? Fantastic. That's exactly what your child should do and want at the ripe age of 7. I was besotted with fighter jets. I loved fighter jets. Oh my. Whenever I saw one, I would glow like a flare, fire in my eyes as I looked at the matte camouflaged metal. If love at first sight existed, that was it. Right there and then. Thinking back at it actually, 7-year-old me was hardcore, damn. Anyway, so you know what I did? I decided to put my entire life force into being a fighter pilot. The day my small ignorant self hit the ripe age of 14, I started flying lessons. Since I wasn't actually an adult yet, I wasn't allowed to fly engine aircraft. So I took up the next best thing, which was gliding. I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. It was a pretty tough hobby to have. I would have to show up every weekend, early in the morning, and spend a full day on the airfield. Whether rain or sun or freezing or boiling hot, you had to be there. The thing about gliding is that it's a group activity. Since none of the aircraft have engines, there are two ways of getting them up in the air, and one is through pulling them into the air with an engine aircraft or to catapult them. The first method is quite straightforward. You attach the glider to a Cessna of sorts, and it will pull the glider into the air with it. The two stay attached until the appropriate altitude is reached, and then detachment takes place and they both part ways. However, this method has a few issues, and that is that it requires an engine aircraft, it requires jet fuel, a pilot, and it actually takes a lot of time, and all in all it's quite a pricey affair. So this leads to option 2, le catapult. No, it was not a medieval war device, can you imagine? Just being flung into the air with no direction. No, it was actually called a winch, or in Dutch we'd call it de Leer. Just for your information, I live in Holland and I learned to fly in Dutch, so I apologize if some of the translations are a little rough. So what would happen is you'd get attached to the winch with a special cable made for the model glider you were in, and then another person would have to hold the glider level, as when the gliders are on the ground they actually lean on one wingtip. As I mentioned, the teamwork here is very important, so one person holds up the wing and then they will give the signal. Seconds after the signal, the winch will start up, and from this point onwards, everything goes terribly fast. The wingtip holder actually has to run with the glider for a couple of meters before it reaches enough momentum to go on its own, which is quite funny to watch. Once said momentum is reached, the glider will take off. It's literally like flying a kite. I kid you not. Except there's people in the kite and the kite is kind of heavy and rather large. For the people inside the glider, it's very much like a roller coaster. You go up in the air almost vertically, and once loose, the whole world falls completely silent. Well, not completely silent, I lied. There's still some air rushing noise when you're flying, but it's not very loud at all. If it does go completely quiet, that means you're about to stall, also known as falling to your death, so that's no bueno. Anyway, all in all, I did gliding for about 2 to 3 years. Once I reached my final year of high school, I actually had to quit. My high school was asking a lot from me, and since then I never actually managed to find the time to get back to flying. Sad story, really. I do want to actually take it up again, but we'll see when I have the time for that. In those last years of high school, I actually took physics and maths so that I could get into flight school, but that flopped completely. I failed physics outright, and the only math I was able to do was at standard level. Flight school required higher level. And that's kind of where my dreams crumbled into nothing. I couldn't get into any studies for flying as my technical knowledge was below par. At the time, I was gutted. I really wanted to become a fighter pilot. To add insult to injury, to pour more salt into my open wounds, I also found out in the last year of high school that my eyesight was complete and utter garbage. At the time, the military did not accept pilots that needed visual aid, so I actually contemplated getting laser eye surgery. I then found out that I also had dyslexia, and guess what? The Dutch Air Force doesn't accept people who have dyslexia, so that was the final nail in that coffin. I kissed my dream of becoming a fighter pilot its final goodbye, and as not to be a complete and utter disappointment, decided I was going to study medicine instead. So that's what your girl's doing right now. I guess guess the moral of the story is that if things don't work out the way you thought they would, you'll still end up in a good place. Just work hard and be kind to others, and your good karma will reward you for it. I wanted to give my grandfather a shout out, for he inspired me to follow my dreams. He was a KLM pilot and also started his career through gliding. He's a wonderful person and a great role model, and I'm very thankful to have him in my life. So thank you, Opa. That's it for today's video. Sorry for the late update. I handed in my thesis for university and I'm getting ready to graduate from my bachelor's degree. So as you can imagine, my life has been slightly hectic. You can follow me on my Instagram where I post my comics and updates. If you want to see more exclusive content and behind the scenes work, come support me at Patreon. Special thanks are in order for Anthony, Arham, Carter, Havoc5, Jay Weaverus, Jan, Christian, Nicholas, Peter, Skavar, Shank, Suez, Tanya, William, Gladian Noob, David, and Zishan. Thank you for making this video possible. And thank you for watching. I hope to see you on the next one.